They were stripped of their citizenship, forbidden to return, and allowed to take only what they could carry.
Wow.
Imagine
Ottoman Empire
being born
with
into one of the most powerful dynasties in history,
princess?
only to watch it collapse
Suggestion, a part of
before
members
your
meet.
eyes. She was the granddaughter of the last Ottoman Sultan and the last Caliph of Islam. She dined in palaces, spoke with kings, and lived under the shadow of empires. Yet, she would also taste exile, revolution, and the loss of everything she had ever known. This is not just the story of a princess, it is the story of Neslişah Sultan, a woman whose life mirrored the fall of an empire and the turbulent birth of the modern Middle East. And her journey begins in the final years of the Ottoman world. By the early 20th century, the Ottoman Empire, once stretching across 3 continents, was in decline. The empire had been known as the sick man of Europe for decades, struggling against both internal unrest and the ambitions of European powers. World War I would be its final blow. The defeat of the Central Powers in 1918 brought an end to over 600 years of Ottoman rule. The Sultanate was abolished in 1922. The Caliphate, which had been the spiritual leadership of the Muslim world, followed in 1924. And with that, the royal family itself was exiled. The world...
Bro, the Ottoman Empire fall, bro. It's like what? It's like, bro. I don't know, man. Like the way how the Ottoman Empire was just broken up, it was just shit. Kind of just sad, bro. What happened to Hungary too? That was pretty sad. Freaking losing 70% of your territory. I'm glad to see that freaking like Atatürk came and was like, what the hell? You know, he like fixed things and like turned things around, but like every time I hear about the breakup of the Ottoman Empire, it just gives me such a, I don't even know, feeling sick stomach on the fear of, I don't even know the feeling to describe it.
Neslişah Sultan was born into was already vanishing. Neslişah Sultan was born on February 2nd, 1921 in Istanbul, though at the time the city was still officially known as Constantinople to the outside world. She came from a lineage that combined 2 of the most illustrious dynasties in the...
What? They were still calling it Constantinople up until 100 years ago. What?
Muslim world. Her father, Shahzade Omer Farooq, was the son of the last Caliph, Abdulmajid II. Her mother, Princess Rukiye Sabiha, was the daughter of the last Ottoman Sultan, Mehmed VI Vahideddin. This meant that Neslişah was not only the granddaughter of the last Sultan, but also the granddaughter of the last Caliph, an almost unique position in history. She was born into a family whose bloodline carried both the sword of political rule and the mantle of spiritual leadership. But Neslişah's life of privilege would be short-lived. In 1924, when she was just 3 years old, the Turkish Republic, under Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, formally abolished the Caliphate. All members of the Ottoman dynasty were ordered to leave Turkey within days. They were stripped of their citizenship, forbidden to return, and allowed to take only what they could carry.
Wow.
Overnight, the royal family went from living in palaces to wandering the world in search of shelter.
Wow.
For Neslişah,
you know, it's something, right? Like, it goes to show you how much shit can change in life. Like, so quick. Like, bruh. One moment, you could be living so lavishly. Next moment, bam. Rock bottom. It's like, really and truly, just sit there and think. That's why whenever I see like these rich people, I'm like, okay, cool, good for them. Like, that can be easily taken from them quick, honestly.
This meant saying goodbye to the only home she had ever known. Her family first went to Switzerland, a safe, neutral land, but far from the grandeur of Istanbul. Money was scarce. While European aristocrats still treated them with curiosity and respect, the exiled royals were now strangers in a foreign world.
Wow.
Neslişah's education was in French and Turkish, but she was also exposed to German during her time in Europe. She grew up disciplined, well-read, and highly aware of her unique heritage, yet she also learned humility in exile. The palaces were gone, the servants were gone. What remained was a name and a history that could never be erased. In 1940, at the age of 19, Neslişah Sultan married Prince Muhammad Abdelmanim of Egypt. Abdelmanim was the son of Khedive Abbas Hilmi II, the last Khedive of Egypt and Sudan, deposed by the British in 1914. With this union, Neslişah once again found herself at the very center of royal politics. She was no longer just an exiled Ottoman princess. She had now become a princess of Egypt, linking two fading empires, the Ottoman and the Egyptian dynasties. Life in Cairo was very different from life in Switzerland. The Egyptian court was wealthy, vibrant, and deeply political. Neslişah adapted quickly, admired for her elegance, intelligence, and fluency in multiple languages. The people of Egypt saw in her
fluency in multiple European languages. Bruh, yo, I would never understand this about Europeans, right? Mr. Effie, I think I was talking to you about this, actually. I don't know if I was talking to you or someone else, but I was talking to a couple of people about this. I don't know if I was talking to you, Effie. Who's Effie? One of my channel members, if you don't know who I'm talking about. But he's definitely watching this. But, bro, whenever I hear like Europeans talk about, I know how to speak like this language, that language, and that language, I look at the languages that they know. It's like, it's so unimpressive. Like, it's so unimpressive. It's usually just some other language that's closely related to their native language in the first place. Or it's just like English, which English is literally everywhere. It's taught when you were a kid. Okay, and research has shown that you have until 18 years old. 18 years old until learning languages start becoming harder for you, okay? So, it's not even impressive whenever they say, I can speak English. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. English is basically like almost a native language because you were literally taught that at school since you were a kid anyways. And English is everywhere. So you basically grew up with English too, right? Okay, and then the ones who like know other languages except for English, right? Because most of them only like know English, right? Usually it's just like some closely related language. Like, I even then, it's like Indo-European. Like, if you're in that language family of Indo-European, you're all just speaking dialects of what used to be one language. So whenever I hear someone whose native language is an Indo-European language go and learn another Indo-European language or multiple Indo-European languages, it's really not impressive to me. It's really not. Now, let's say an Indo-European speaking person goes and learn a language like Chinese, Japanese, or just something that's not related to the freaking Indo-European, and they master it really well. Now, that is impressive. That is very, very impressive. Like, bruh, I've been teaching myself Russian literally every single day, hours on end, literally 4 to 8 hours sometimes, depending on the day and what I have to do, right? Minimum is at least 4 hours a day I'm teaching myself Russian, bruh. Okay? Which is why I've been like inactive on honestly like a bunch of stuff, right? I don't really brag about this shit to people. Like, I'm literally accelerating through my Russian learning process right now. I am accelerating. Like, bro, like within a few months from now, I will be freaking like B1. I'll be into B1 in a couple of months from now, right? I don't already brag about that to people because when learning Russian, And I was like, what the heck? I'm like, this grammar is the same logic as in English. A lot of this stuff is like straight up identical in English. If you know what you're looking for, you can literally find the same exact grammar logic that Russian has, that English has. And that's not a coincidence. Why? Because they're both Indo-European languages. And since they're both Indo-European languages, at one point, Russian and English used to be the same language before they split into their different dialects and become, like their own freaking thing. But I'm just saying, like these Europeans, bro, I swear to Jesus Almighty, it's Europeans who are like this, who like to brag about how many languages that they know. I like to shame Americans for not knowing how to speak more than like bro, it's cringe, bruh. It's cringe and it's not impressive. It's not. Anybody can learn a language really and truly if they want to. I don't even think learning languages is hard. I just think you just need the right person to teach you, or if you have it in you, teach yourself. Because in a lot of cases, teaching yourself can be a lot more effective than having a tutor. The only thing that you need a tutor for is pronunciation. But grammar, all that stuff, you already need a tutor for. But that's just my opinion because I've been teaching myself Russian just fine. And whenever people hear me speak Russian, you're like, Jesus, you're like 50% better than like everyone else who's learning Russian. I'm like, wow, that's crazy considering that I'm freaking self-taught. But anyways.
A symbol of continuity, a link to the grandeur of the Ottomans. She became a key figure in Egyptian high society, moving gracefully through circles of politicians, ambassadors, and aristocrats. But beneath the glitter of the court lay unrest. By the 1940s, nationalist movements were growing in Egypt. The British still exerted enormous influence, and resentment simmered among the population. After the abdication of King Farouk in 1952, Egypt entered a period of turmoil. Neslişah's husband, Prince Abdelmanem, was appointed as a regent for the young King Fuad II. For a brief moment, Neslişah Sultan stood as the de facto First Lady of Egypt. Newspapers published her portraits. Diplomats praised her refinement. She was the face of monarchy in a rapidly changing nation. Yet power was slipping away. In 1953, the monarchy was abolished by the Free Officers movement, led by Gamal Abdel Nasser. Neslişah and her family suddenly found themselves vulnerable once again. They were placed under house arrest for a period of time, watched closely by the new regime. The princess, who had once lived in palaces, was now a prisoner in her own home. Eventually they were released, but the royal titles meant nothing in the new republic. It was the second time in her life that Neslişah Sultan witnessed the collapse of a dynasty. First the Ottomans, then the Egyptians. After the fall of the
Breaks my heart as a monarchist.
Egyptian monarchy, Neslişah Sultan lived quietly in Cairo for several years. But her story was not over. In 1952, Turkey officially lifted the exile on female members of the Ottoman dynasty. For the first time since childhood, Neslişah was allowed to return to her ancestral homeland. She set foot in Istanbul, a city she had only known through the memories of her family. Her return was symbolic. Unlike her grandmother, Empress Zita of Austria, or other European royals, Neslişah did not live with bitterness. She adapted to the modern Turkish Republic with dignity. She never sought political power, nor did she attempt to revive the Ottoman legacy in a disruptive way. Instead, she embraced a quiet but respected role, a living witness of history. In Istanbul, Neslişah Sultan became a bridge between past and present. She attended cultural events, supported charities, and preserved family memories. Her home became a gathering place where the fading echoes of Ottoman traditions lived on, yet always in harmony with the Republic. For younger generations, she represented both loss and continuity. The end of empire, yet the survival of its spirit. She lived long enough to see a full century of history. Born into an empire that no longer exists, crowned a princess in exile, First Lady of Egypt, and finally, a quiet matriarch in modern Turkey. Her life was a story of survival, dignity, and adaptation.
Yo, that's some cool shit, bro.
In March
That's
2012,
wow.
at the age of 91,
91.
Neslişah Sultan passed away in Istanbul. She was buried in the Ashiyan Cemetery, overlooking the Bosphorus, the very heart of the city her ancestors once ruled. Neslişah Sultan was the last Ottoman princess to witness both the fall of her own dynasty and the fall of another. Her story is not just a royal biography, but a mirror of the turbulent 20th century.
Yeah.
Exile, revolution, and
That's
survival.
like if all the chaos of the 20th century was just a person, man.
Today,
Wow.
she is remembered as the last Ottoman princess. After Neslişah Sultan's passing in 2012, it became clear that with her, the living memory of a dynasty that had ruled for centuries had nearly vanished from living history. But her words remained a testament to the divisions within her own family. While her
Yo, that is crazy. 2012, I was 7 years old. I was 7 years old. So I was alive, well alive, when a person from that period of time was still, wow.
grandfather, Mehmed VI Damat Vahideddin, left in embittered exile, accusing the Republic of betrayal and labeling it illegitimate. Neslişah embraced a different path. Educated in Europe, fluent in multiple languages, and shaped by modern ideals, she spoke instead of reconciliation, not resentment. Her belief that the Republic did not destroy her family's past, but brought salvation to the Turkish people, bridged the chasm between tradition and transformation. It compels us to revisit what Mustafa Kemal Atatürk
Also, she was like very young when all of this had happened, so she wouldn't really have that time to even harbor any like resentment.
truly offered. A rebirth, not only of a nation, but of its people's dignity and collective future. The fall of the Ottoman throne was not accepted by all in the same way. Sultan Mehmed VI Vahideddin, the last reigning sultan, departed Istanbul in anger. In his eyes, the Republic was not a rebirth, but a betrayal.
Damn.
From exile, he accused Mustafa Kemal and his companions of treachery, of seizing the empire's power for themselves. His letters and declarations
But the Ottoman Empire and the Turkish Republic are two different entities. They're literally like they abolished that. Literally abolish all of that, bruh. So it's like Turkey's a whole different entity. So it's like shit. Oh well, your country doesn't even exist anymore. Like Turkey is the successor to the Ottoman Empire, but even if you're the successor, you're not that previous thing. You're just taking the spot of what used to be there. Hence the name. Because people, I used to get this confused too. What like succession, but it's really just basic common sense. Because when people hear succession, they confuse it and think like, oh, this thing is gonna become like the old thing. Like, no, like it's just taking the spot. Yeah, but it's not that old thing. It's its own thing. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but yeah.
carried bitterness, calling the new government annoyed, illegitimate, dismissing the Republic as nothing more than a usurpation. For Vahideddin, the glory of the dynasty had been stolen. Yet, just a generation later, a very different voice emerged. Princess Neslişah, his own granddaughter, born into exile, grew to see the world through new eyes. She was educated in Europe, fluent in French and German, a woman who dressed in modern fashion, who admired the West's intellectual spirit. When asked about Atatürk and the Republic, her words contrasted sharply with those of her grandfather. "Thoughtful, my family's not against Atatürk," she said. "Relax, perhaps the dynasty ended, but the salvation of the Turkish people began. And what was that salvation? Under Atatürk, a defeated and fragmented nation was rebuilt into a sovereign republic. He abolished the Sultanate and Caliphate, yes, but in their place, he established equality before the law. He expanded education, opening schools for girls as well as boys. He granted women the right to vote, to be elected, to take their place in public life. He reformed language and culture, giving Turks a modern alphabet, opening the door to literacy for millions. He separated religion from politics, ensuring freedom of conscience, and perhaps most importantly, he gave the people something they had not felt for generations: dignity and independence. Between the Sultan who left in bitterness and the princess who embraced modernity lies a powerful contrast. The old order resented, resisted, and accused. But Neslişah reflected reconciliation. She did not see Atatürk as a usurper, she saw him as the architect of a nation that survived. A leader who did not destroy her homeland, but saved it. And in her voice, one can hear the bridge between empire.
I know it's funny because the Sultan literally became a puppet for the freaking Allies after World War I. Bruh, the Sultan was literally going to enforce that ridiculous treaty that the Allies imposed on the Ottoman Empire. Like, bruh, that is insane. It's like, really? Like, they're bitter because Atatürk went and stopped what would become Turkey from becoming a rump state that's small as shit. Like, bruh, like...
And republic, between tradition and modernity, between loss and survival.
Look, man, another brilliant video. If you made it all the way here, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because, like, bro, you made it all the way here. I need to watch that video. That is crazy. I gotta react to that. That is a crazy video. What the hell? But, you know, like, check out my other Ottoman Empire reactions on my channel, or Turkey histories, or just any type of history at this point on my channel. Check out my channel membership if you're an active viewer for 99 cents a month. The link is gonna be in the pinned comments below. Where, you know, your suggestions are done quickly. You know, you get better insider access of what the hell is going on with me, my channel, you know, etc., etc. Trust me, it's worth it. Thank you to all the people who joined. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.